How's it going, guys? Welcome back to this interview series. Today I'm chatting with Isaac Davidson, a really great coach, puts out awesome content on Instagram, so give him a follow. For those that just don't know, brother, could you please just give a quick introduction and then we'll dive right in.
All right. So, as you know, Isaac Davidson, short kind of story. I've been in the industry 6 years, and I've kind of been that guy who's kind of, as you know, you've kind of been following me for a little while.
Yeah,
I've kind of been that guy who's kind of hungry for education, and that's kind of
for
where I
sure.
built a bit of my name for myself. So, long story short, went through the education system, spent lots and lots of money of education, went through a couple of companies, really well-known companies, that got myself to where I am now. And I've kind of been lucky in my journey that I'm at a point now where I've kind of molded and created my own kind of day, really.
Yeah,
So I'm kind of like, it's turned into a bit of like a jack of all trades. So I do a bit of photography, and I'm lucky, like I get paid to do everything I love. I do a bit of photography for the gym that I'm at. I'm a head trainer at a gym, so I do a lot of mentoring, a lot of educating. I do personal training. I do strength and conditioning for like a club team. I do it for the Rugby WA Academy. And I think that's pretty much it. I think there's one more thing there. But yeah, basically, like, I've been lucky enough to go through all the systems, go through all the kind of education, come out the other side, and get to this point now where I can kind of mold and kind of create my own days, and I'm kind of covered across a lot of bases.
yeah,
Because me personally, like, my biggest kind of mission statement vision has kind of been like that ability to get anybody and take them from A to B as quickly and safely as possible, right?
yeah,
So for me personally, what I do is I train Gen Pop, I train physique athletes, I train rugby athletes, I train a large variety of populations, and that's just been purely off the back of just years and years and years of in the trenches and digging and
yeah,
studying, and luckily enough now to kind of put myself where I am now, so to speak.
yeah, yeah. You're really well accomplished as well, man. So, but even with all those populations you've trained, like you've pursued most of them yourself, right? Like you've done shows, you know, and now you're doing like your performance-based work.
Yeah, and that's always been a big belief, and that's a big drive with a lot of yourself included. Like a lot of really good coaches is if you go down the journey yourself and what others have been down, you can connect on a much different level, and you can help them on a much different level. So
Yeah,
I've competed, I play rugby myself again. Like
nice.
I've done hypertrophy, I've done fat loss, I've done all the different kind of I guess specific goals you can kind of go for, and I've gone down those journeys so that when I get into the forefront and I become that leader, so to speak, and I become the organizer of this individual I'm looking for, and then I can also take into account all the individual like personality or emotional kind of variances within them all, which creates a lot of success. What I've found creates a lot of success in the long term.
Yeah, that emotional like ability to relate is intense, man. It's very important. I feel like because most of the people I train are coming to me for fat loss, something I obviously went through myself. You know, like I don't
Yeah.
I don't really deal too much with hypertrophy and all of that. Like it's mainly females coming to me. Um, but yeah, like I know what it's like, you know, to give up all the things like you love and stuff like. But you can still find a good balance, I reckon. So I try to
100%. 100%.
give that to them
Yeah. Yeah.
at least. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, you asked your followers if they had any questions that they would like to have asked you. I think we touched on programming. I think it was.
Yeah. So the first one of the, so I had a couple on there, and I was trying to talk about before. Like, we'll see where this goes. We'll see the conversation
Yeah,
kind of go down. But one of the first ones was it was a post I put up a while ago of one of my clients. We're talking about like phase potentiation.
yeah,
All right. So for a lot of people, it depends on the demographic that watch this. Some will be trainers, some will be Gen Pop. So basically, like phase potentiation is like a fancy word for kind of prepping.
yeah,
Right? It's kind of pre-prepping a training stimulus or a training output that you're trying to get within the next block or the next exercise or whatever it might be, or even the next set, so to speak. Right?
okay,
So one example I had with a client was you can do it with exercise, you can do it with programs. Like if you look at the bigger kind of program side of things, like you look at this basic periodization. So you look at linear, you look at undulating, you look at a bunch of these different phases, and they're set up in ways where they'll chop and change um, to get a stimulus that feeds into the next program that'll make, because of that first stimulus, will make that next program better.
okay,
Right? So
sweet,
periodization will start with volume and will build into intensity. So we know if we can build more contractile muscle units, we'll have more strength when we get into that intensity side of things, right?
Yeah.
When we build up that volume capacity, when we go into intensity, we're much more efficient.
Yeah.
So one of the questions on there was basically in terms of the exercises or post I was going to make about, and it was like the exercise, like getting something stronger.
Okay.
Right. And then there's multiple different ways you've got to look at it. So we've got an exercise, an example for one of my clients, Stephen, he had like an overhead press. Right. So the overhead press was the main marker. So his goal is hypertrophy. So we always start from the top down. So the goal is hypertrophy. Then from there, we've got to look at the specific movement we're looking for example, his shoulders. Right? We want to put him on stage in the next 6 to 12 months.
Okay.
Got to have big delts, right? So hypertrophy of the shoulders, movements of the shoulder press, and we know that if we obviously get the correct stimulus, and then we also get stronger within those given tissues, that we're going to create hypertrophy, right?
Yeah.
So we know that if we need to continue to get stronger, there's eventually going to be roadblocks in the ability to get stronger. So for him, one of the limiting factors that I was picking up, because I know him so well now, was his trunk stability.
Okay.
Right, so you put him into like an incline press. He was in a 75 incline press. When he was pressing, I could just tell. Again, it's watching human bodies move over thousands and thousands of times. I could just tell his trunk stability was lacking as we got towards the end of the block. So I pulled that movement out. I put him into a Z press. Okay. So Z press is basically like you're sitting on the floor, you're upright, there's no back support, and he has to press. Oof. We had to massively regress the load. So we're regressing the intensity, so we're going from accumulation to intensification on this movement. We regress the load, and he said the same thing, like, again, this is being part of the coach, he wants to up the load, but no, like, take the load back, trust me, take the load back, get the trunk stability, get that kind of connection between the movement with the trunk stability and the overhead pressing. We do that for 5 weeks, he adds 10 kilos or so into that movement, then we come back to the incline press, and within the first week, he adds 10 kilos into the bar.
Wow. Okay.
From 5 weeks ago when he hasn't touched it. So that's one little skill within program design, but it takes a while to kind of get it, which is basically phase potentiation. Like we're trying to potentiate that movement by doing something in the previous phases to make it better. So that was basically one of the questions is how to do it. And I guess to break it apart even more, there's as we kind of spoke about that, there's a goal, right?
Yeah.
So there's the goal we've got there. Then there's the movement pattern that will fit into that goal. So I want to get a bigger deadlift, or I want to get bigger shoulders, or it might even be fat loss. I want to have a better work capacity through the hack squat or the leg press or whatever it might be. So there's a movement there, and then for that movement we've got to go, all right, this is our main kind of driver of progress. What's going to be the limiting factor? What's going to be what's the weakest link in the chain?
Yeah.
We've all heard the saying before, right? So if you can fix the weakest link in the chain and you can predict prior to the weakest link in the chain breaking, you'll get more long-term progress. Yeah. So you go from there and you break it apart. All right, what's the stability? What's the stability factor? Is there a lack of stability through certain joints in the body? What's the movement? Is there issues with skill or movement pattern or whatever it might be? Is there unilateral imbalances, whatever it might be? So to kind of answer the question, a long-winded kind of answer, there's multiple different ways you want to go about it, but basically goal, exercise selection, from the exercise selection, look to kind of from phase to phase continue the progress by just identifying the weakest links. Yeah. And that come down to identify, like I think you've done work with Stefan Cazalt before? Yeah. Or you've read something? Yeah. So he has like his strength ratios, you would have seen?
So Stefan? INF.
Yeah, so Stefan Cazalt, sorry. So Stefan Cazalt, I've been mentoring with him. So he has basically like strength ratios. So there's certain ratios between different movements that, for example, if my squat's 100 kilos, I ideally want my deadlift to be 125 kilos. Okay. So there's certain relationships there. So you can tell, like, all right, if I get somebody in the gym and their deadlift's 120 kilos, but their squat's 60, what's going on there? What's the issue there? Yeah. So there's a multitude of different ways you can kind of identify. Then you can also go, all right, they're pressing and the bar's going like this. Okay. All right, there's probably an imbalance there. Yeah. They're pressing and it's like shaking all over the place, or whatever it might be. So there's a multitude of different factors, but that's probably a long-winded answer.
Yeah, no worries, man. No worries at all. In terms of like linear and undulating work, is this, do you use these based on like the training age of the client, or do you have a preferred method you like to use? Like obviously, like let's say there's a beginner, like would you throw
Yeah.
undulation at them or no? You would just stick with linear first.
Nah. So I had this saying a while ago, like there's laws of program design, and there is rules, but you probably shouldn't break the rules. But I personally like to break the rules,
Yeah.
right? So I don't always use the full like to the T periodization.
Okay.
I use them in the sense I respect them a lot and I keep them in the back of my mind, but I won't always go to that. So let's go, for example, you've got a beginner client, right? They're not necessarily going to need this big fancy periodization.
Yeah.
The main factor you've got to realize is, especially if this is the first time in the gym for them, the skill patterns they acquire has a huge impact on the rest of the lifting career.
Yeah.
Massive, right? So, good example, I work with the Rugby WA Academy, right? So, as we were talking about before, these are 15, 16, 17-year-old boys that over a 1 to 2 year period, 3 year period, we're trying to turn them into potential professional rugby athletes.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get them to win professional rugby contracts. And the one thing with them when they come into the gym is I go, all right, they're 15, 16, 17 years old. These boys need to last the next 15 years of rugby.
Man.
Right? What I do with them in those moments is massively important. So if I go, all right, let's do a linear periodization, we're going to go from sets of 10 down to sets of 4, but they don't have the intramuscular coordination, they don't have the skill down packed, and I get them under the bar for sets of 4 and it's horrendous.
Yeah.
That's going to ruin the skill acquisition because we know it's much harder to retrain a skill than build a skill.
Yeah.
It's to lead to a much higher risk of injury. It's going to, most importantly, because the number one thing is the gym's a bonus. What happens on the field is the main factor there.
Yeah.
So, and same for people in the gym. The lifting's a bonus. The fat loss is the main goal they're looking for.
Yeah.
So they don't have to squat massive loads. They don't have to deadlift massive loads. Like, they just need to get a higher energy expenditure, and that can be done through really good, and that can be done through smart programming. So
yeah.
Let's break this down. This is an example, right? So we've got a beginner client. We want them to start learning movement patterns, but they're not doing enough to get a good stimulus or get a good kind of expenditure, right? So there's different ways you can go about it. You can do, like I did this, some of my guys have done it with a couple people, like an every minute on the minute.
Okay, yeah.
So you every minute on the minute and you're going to do a sub-max load. So if you can usually do, say for example, you can usually do 50 kilo squat for 5 reps. Let's do 30 kilos and let's do 5 reps and let's do 5 really good reps. The first 5 sets, they'll be skilled. Right, this is boring, I'm standing around. Set 6, 7, 8, they're going to go, all right, I'm starting to get taxed out a little bit.
Yeah.
And then you start building skill, you start building work capacity, but it's a low enough rep range that they're not going to start to freak out and things like that. So, yeah, like, again, to kind of long-winded answer to come back, like, I'll more focus on, like, the movement pattern and the quality and kind of building them up. And I build them up to earn periodization.
Okay.
Because, like, I've got some clients where, like, here's the perfect, like, undulated periodization model, like, all the reps and all the volume, all the rep schemes and all the tempos are all perfect. Here you go. But they've had to earn that. Because if I chuck them straight into that, like, that's not going to be the best thing for them. That, again, that comes back to the kind of tailoring and art of coaching and program design.
Yeah. So you actually think years later, not just like, oh, like, let's reach this goal of fat loss or hypertrophy. You're thinking, like, what are they going to be doing in the gym later on even? Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, 100%. That should be everybody's, like, focus. And this is my big thing. I say to all my online clients all my online clients roll my eyes because they've had this a lot of times. They've had this quite frequently, I should say.
Yeah.
And they hear it on the first call. It's like, you're not going to be with me forever.
Yeah.
You're not going to be with me forever. My goal is not to hold on to you and be like, yeah, like, you're mine, you're going to be my client forever. It's like, no, they understand, like, you're not going to be with me forever, right? Everything I do with you is going to impact what you do post that. So I need to make sure that when you leave me, you're self-sufficient in as much things as possible.
Yeah.
And that's my mindset. It's prior to fat loss, prior to strength, prior to athletic development, prior to all these things. It's like, all right, what's going to make sure if I'm not around holding your hand, you're going to be self-sufficient, which goes back to the conversation we had prior to the podcast, was like everyone's kind of struggling with now, right? Is that coaching aspect. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good, man.
So
So with your like rugby squads and stuff, are you coaching them in the gym, or are you programming for them and you'll see them once or twice a week and they run it by themselves? Or are you doing both the rugby coaching and the strength and conditioning?
No. So this is, and again, this is the benefit these guys get. So they've got, and this is unfortunately, like in WA, we're not as well funded as the East Coast of Australia.
Okay.
So the East Coast is really well known, the West Coast not as much. So we don't have as much staff, but we've got a, I guess so to speak, like a head of high performance. We've got a head of strength and conditioning. We've got a manager or a coach, so to speak. So there's different coaching aspects.
Okay.
And what our role is to train the boys in the gym and on the field to improve athletic development, to then improve, which they then do after. So like tonight. So we'll go in the gym tonight from like 4 a.m. to 5 p.m. We'll do weights. We'll go out in the field. We'll do strength and conditioning from 5 to 5:30, and then they'll do skills with their coach from like 5:30, 6 through to 7.
Okay.
And it's like it's basically it's a lot of training. It's a lot of training for a young athlete, and that's why obviously training is important. But it's prepping them for that professional environment, which is what they're going to have to do.
Yeah.
So that's basically our role, is to ensure, number one, which is the role of John with everybody and especially strength and conditioning, is injury prevention. But then from there, it's athletic performance to potentially be called to go and play for a professional team. Like we had some of our boys get called up prior to COVID to go play for the Western Force.
Sweet.
So these are like 18-year-old boys going up and playing with 25, 30-year-old men.
Okay.
So our job is to prepare them and make them ready for that.
That must be intimidating, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, the boys, but they're tough boys. They won't. Shouldn't say that to them, but they're tough. They're really good boys. They're really tough.
And in terms of their nutrition, like who sorts that out? Is that you as well, or someone else? They sort their own out, or they seek out a nutritionist?
So that's been a bit of a funding thing through. Again, this is the issue within sport and within certain sports as well. Is it's not really well funded within a lot of them. So unfortunately, where we are, it's not super funded. So for me, I've kind of taken on more of an educational role for them.
Okay.
So obviously, these guys need specific under the regulations. But at the moment, through my sports nutrition qualification, I'm basically just kind of mentoring and educating them through the education process, what they need. And this is one thing which, again, we can probably take this in multiple different directions. Is one of the biggest issues we find in sports is there's a term called like REDS, like relative energy deficit in sports, and I found this massively when I came on board, especially with the younger athletes, because they're not in control of their nutrition.
Yeah.
Is these boys are under and overtraining. And then that's having a whole host of health issues from there. And it's not even just young professional athletes. It's a lot of gen pop. It's a lot of bodybuilders. It's a lot of physique athletes. It's a lot of people that fall into the kind of either in the spectrum of overconsumption or the issues of underconsumption with a high amount of training stress on that system. So that's just been one of my roles, just to bring in an education process for these boys to kind of to teach them around, which we'll speak about before, to kind of get that accountability and like, all right, if we're not here holding your hand, what do you do with your nutrition?
Yeah.
Right. You need to take that accountability to ensure you're eating the right amount and the right quantities and all that thing to fuel the performance that you need on the field. Yeah.
So with a sport like that, like, would you set calories around maintenance or even more? You obviously wouldn't have them in a deficit, right?
Yeah, 100%. It would depend on the body composition demands of each of the athletes. So obviously for a lot of younger athletes, there's not really a huge demand on altering their body composition, apart from the fact of placing on lean tissue, so making sure you've obviously got sufficient amount of calories, sufficient amount of protein, but these boys are going to grow anyway, which is why it goes back to, like, they're going to grow, which obviously you need smart programming to kind of to blend that in with, I guess, in brackets, functionality for performance on the field. But yeah, like we're looking to set things around maintenance, around a slight surplus, because For these boys, the calorie expenditure fluctuates so much. You can't risk trying to just try and sit perfectly on maintenance. I personally look for that little bit of a slight surplus, and then obviously we track the numbers. So
Yeah.
one thing the boys have is they've got an app that will track a lot of subjective feedback and a lot of objective feedback. So it'll track their moods, their energy, things like that, and it'll track like their scale weight and things like that. So obviously we've got set kind of KPIs for the boys, like certain positions will need certain body weights. So obviously they're fairly under, we obviously need to have a calorie surplus. If they're excessively, if they need an excessive amount of body composition change in terms of like reducing body fat, we might sit at a slight surplus. But again, the main priority for these boys is performance.
Yeah.
That's the main focus. And especially at a young age, you find body composition tends to adjust quite. It adjusts a little bit easier because of the high energy expenditure they have. Like these boys are training, like in the off season, these boys are training 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 hours a week.
That's crazy.
Like under the kind of regular recommendations we've had put down on us through what they want them to get done. It's a massive demand on the system. So it's a matter of just fueling the system, and you'll find a lot of body composition tends to come on board with that as well.
Okay, that's amazing. And then post-COVID, essentially, because I think, you had mentioned how to approach training post-COVID now. Like, because the gyms are going to open up your side quite quickly. What can some people do to stay obviously safe? Like, let's say the guys that are going to enter the gym, like, because as we spoke of off camera, some may not, but the ones that do enter the gym, like, what can they do? Are there any principles or anything they need to keep in mind when they restart training?
Yeah, so there's heaps. This is a pretty it's in many ways. It's one thing a lot of people talk about now, but I think the main thing is the art of patience. So
Okay.
a lot of lifters, I think we can all agree, if we went back in time, and hell, I'm only 25, but if I could go back in time, I wish I could kind of implement the art of patience a little bit more.
Yeah, man.
And respect the kind of law of progression.
Yeah.
Which is the biggest one. So you've got to understand that, like, and it's actually funny enough, I was reading the study this morning, I've got it here, because I kind of, in the mornings I kind of like to go through a bit of research. So
nice.
There's one here, and it's basically a new kind of theory they're bringing out for, well, not theory, but one thing they're kind of digging into is acute to chronic workload for kind of sports management, right? So they're basically looking at like a week, the weekly load versus the monthly load, and they build it basically like a ratio of that. And if there's too much of a variance in between the week and the month, so let's say I'm going to use examples like running, right? So if someone runs over 4 weeks, they run 3K, 4K, 4K, and 5K. The average is 4K across that week. So the 3 and 5Ks are not too far off the average.
Yeah.
Right now, if someone went and run and they ran 3K, 7K, 4K, 2K, there's a lot of variance in the stresses there.
Yeah.
So what they're finding in the research is they're starting to find in the research is if you get too far away from where your previous week was, there's a high risk. So if you go into the gym and you say, for example, we'll talk about sets, all right? So obviously each set's going to be different stimulus, but if you go in the gym and you do 20 sets of workout, and then you go on the next week and you do 30 sets of workout, and then you go on the next week and do like 15 sets of workout, there's danger between the higher increase and there's a danger between the higher decrease. So if you do too much, there's a risk, but also what they're finding is if you do too little, there's a risk.
Wow.
So what will happen with a lot of people is they'll go in and they'll go, all right, I'm gonna bust ass here, I'm gonna hard out, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna smash like 40 sets of workout.
Yeah.
And they'll come in the next week and go, oh yeah, sweet, I'm gonna come in and smash 45 sets of workout. And they'll come in week 3 and they're like, yeah, I'm feeling kind of trash. Like the fatigue management hasn't been put in place. Fatigue bar will start to accumulate.
Yeah.
And they'll go, I'm feeling kind of wrecked. Like, bro, let's just do like half a workout, then we'll go. Let's do 20 sets of workout. So there's actually danger in risk of injury between the 45 sets and the 20 sets.
That's crazy. Right.
So what a lot of people need to realize is you need to manage this over time. So when you go into the gym, you need to respect, which also is for a lot of people, you need to look at where you were.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are going, all right, let's clean the slate. I'm going to start fresh.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, no, there's been a stress on the system over the previous 4, 8, 12, however long COVID's gone for. There's been a stress on your system over the previous kind of time frame, which you need to respect. So if you've started here, you need to slowly, over a certain percentage, you need to slowly, because they've either got like a quantitative percentage or they've got like a quantitative ratio. So the ratio, I had on my whiteboard here, was like 0.8 to 1.3. Like, you don't want too much difference between that. So if your ratio gets too high, you're at a risk, but if it drops too much, you're at a risk too. So make sure you respect that law and you slowly build up, whether it's the amount of sets that you do, whether it's the amount of kilometers that you run, whether it's whatever stress you're placing on the system, it's gradual over time.
Yeah.
And then we can dig even deeper into that and we can go, all right, let's quantify that. Because 20 sets for one person isn't the same as 20 sets for other people.
Yeah, true.
So I read a program for one of my girls the other week, one of my physique girls, and one of the things we were managing over time was her volume and her RPE scale.
Okay.
So we would add in a certain volume with a certain RPE scale, then we can maintain that volume at a higher RPE scale with higher loads, and then we manipulate the loads again, the volume again.
Okay.
And we're building that volume back up to where she was. And then over there, once we got that volume where we want it to, then we're going to build the intensity up to it. So we're going to use a bit of a linear, right? So we're going to build our volume back up, because obviously for physique development, we need a certain amount of stress per tissue to get a certain hypertrophy response. And obviously we want a certain tonnage there, so we want to lift some decent loads. So we're building that volume up, and then we're going to use a bit of a linear periodization, because she hasn't lifted heavy loads in months.
Yeah.
And as much as she's itching just to get under there and lift like a 3-rep max, it's like, no. Like, if you get under there and you get injured and you can't train for 6 weeks, that's going to be far more damaging than you being patient for 3 to 4 weeks and then you can lift heavy.
Yeah.
Because I can guarantee nothing is, from an athlete standpoint, and even just from a hard-out trainer, that nothing is more disheartening than getting injured and not being able to train at all.
Yeah, it sucks,
let alone being locked out of the gym.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's multiple different ways to kind of approach that, but the biggest one is just respect the laws of progression, respect where you've been and where you want to go, and connect those bars. So if you're here, you've been doing this amount of work, and then you've got this goal, whether it's strength, hypertrophy, whatever, respect that that's a distance away, and then kind of map out what volumes, what intensities, what kind of factors I need to use to kind of connect those two dots together.
Yeah, okay. And how would this influence like a deload then? Because obviously we would reach that point where they halve the volume and stuff. But as you said, that like could lead to more potential injuries. So is this going to make us rethink like deloads? Would it have to taper off basically?
Yeah.
Instead of just a cut?
Yeah, and that's basically what they're starting to question now. And it's I personally use deload in my guys and my athletes who can bust ass. Like those guys and girls that I've got to be like, hey, like no, like chill out. I use deloads for them.
Okay.
But then I also kind of, and even more so now, I keep in mind that I can't go too far away from what they've been doing.
Okay.
So the volume drop-offs, the intensity drop-offs, and this is kind of my rule, is like, all right, what is causing, in terms of deloads, it's like, well, what's causing the stress? What's causing this, what's the biggest cause of fatigue, or what's the biggest cause of, I guess, in brackets, under recovery? So for my strength athletes, it'll be intensity.
Yeah.
So we might deload intensity, but I'll maintain the stimulus through volume.
Okay.
So we can use it every minute on the minute, right?
Interesting.
So we can bring the intensity down to a sub-max load, but we keep that stress in the system, because we also got to remember, like, the stress on the connective tissues, the muscles. If that's too much of a distance, if we go lift a 3-rep max and then we go lift like a sub-max load that's not under the same total kind of stress load, and then we try and do that again, like it's not going to be the same. So yeah, it's just basically like manipulating all those factors and just asking the question of what's causing me the stress. For my physique athletes, it'll be volume.
Okay.
Generally for them, like we're trying to push. For the most part, it might be volume or it might be frequency. We're trying to push these two boundaries a little bit more. So we might get them to, which can cause a psychological kind of break too. Like we can get them to have shorter sessions, or we can get them to train less frequently throughout the week.
Yeah.
And then from then they're like, oh, sweet, mental break. and then from there we can start to build things and tape it back up, which is basically like the art of programming anyway. It's all about taping and manipulating things rather than like what most people, and this is why most people, this is the argument for the value of a coach and the value of a personal trainer is manipulating these things, because a lot of people just be like, oh, I just go in the gym and I just train.
Yeah, man.
It's like, well, in that time, but over a long period of time, there's a lot of things that we're thinking about.
Yeah, exactly.
You might see a piece of paper and we might explain what's going on, but you don't see what's in our head, and we're looking at, all right, in 3 months' time, 2 months' time, 4 weeks' time, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. And in our minds, which it's hard to kind of explain out, there's all these different things going on. But for them, they kind of see the piece of paper and like, well, this is just a workout.
Yeah.
It's like, nah, there's a little bit more to it than that.
Yeah, it's crazy, man, because, I mean, they can access all these free workouts and stuff on Instagram and YouTube, you know? So I think that does influence them in that respect. Like, they don't think about the long term, or like, you know, if they have a coach like you who would be thinking not even just months away, but years away, you know? I think it influences them.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. This is the like tailored coaching. This is the art of tailoring, and this is one thing too. And I actually had a bit of a challenge with this. So down at the gym that I work at currently, at Elevation Gym, we molded a new kind of group training scenario. And this is one thing I used to be quite against. I kind of get stuck in my mindset of like, oh, like group training, it's bad, it's all generic, all this kind of stuff. And I got handed the opportunity to go, hey, like, can you design programming for a group class? And I'm like, oh, okay, all right, this is going to be a bit of a challenge. And used all the same principles. I identified, right, periodization, where am I getting them? Who's the population? What do they need? And we built a bit of a periodization over a long period of time, and it's been quite successful in terms of like, we're getting people strong, we're getting people mobile, we're getting people leaner, getting people all these different factors, and all using the same kind of on piece of paper program.
Yeah. And
the one thing it came down to, which we hammered in hard, which we did a lot of work on, was educating the trainers to tailor the sessions on the spot, which is where I think group training can be quite successful.
Yeah.
So with the PT management we've got there, one of the things we worked hard on was to teach the trainers about progressions and regressions, to teach the trainers about loading and identifying when loads have exceeded the capabilities of that individual. When someone needs to go, hey, like, we've got barbell back squats, but no, just here's a kettlebell and do goblet squats. And rather than the 4010 tempo, the 5010 tempo we got in phase 1, I want you to do a 4-second eccentric, and I want you to hold the bottom for 2 seconds.
Okay.
And then I want you to come out slowly from the top.
Wow, that's pretty interesting.
That can take all of 10 to 15 seconds just to cue someone, here's a kettlebell, go, I'm going to watch you, do it, sweet, you're good, Pat, I'm going to keep my eye on you while I can move around. And you've got to be on your toes. It takes quite a good quality coach to do it, but it can be done. But again, that comes back to the kind of answer of like, not only tailored programming, but it's tailored coaching. Yeah. Like, there's a lot of value in tailored coaching, and where I think a lot of trainers need to kind of dig into for education-wise, and nothing beats being in the trenches to do this, but there's also a lot of really good education, is just do more education on just how do you get an individual from A to B, and that individual in front of you, based off their lever lengths, based off their capabilities, based off their personality.
Yeah, man.
Based off their, what's the word? I guess, confidence. Based off all these individual factors. Like, we might just see a human being moving, but there's so many factors that will influence the way they move, the way they progress, the rate of progression, all the how quickly it takes to intake information. Like, there's so many different factors.
That's crazy,
like,
man. I think as time goes on, like, as time goes on, we'll see a larger group of like these style of coaches coming up, like, because as you know, social media can be quite a nuisance for us, but it's also gonna start like exposing those coaches that are good with their clients, like that whole art of coaching and not just programming. So that's a pretty cool idea with the group training, to be honest, man. That's pretty sweet. Yeah, well done with that. Awesome.
It's been an interesting transition. And it's been cool to see, and especially that demographic, like the demographic we've got in there, it's heavily general population. This is general population. Like, the cool thing too is like we've got general population, but the way we market it is it has a capacity for people that haven't trained before, people who've been training for 10 years.
Okay.
So I guarantee you, if someone came up with that program that I writ and they've been training for 8 to 10 years, it will cook you.
Yeah.
It will absolutely smash it. But then if we've got someone who hasn't trained before, we'll tailor that in a way, or the way it's been done is you can get through it without absolutely taxing yourself. And it's quite subjective to the individual that walks through the door.
That's great.
And it's been a cool challenge, but it's super rewarding because, as you know, like with the general pop, they're super grateful for what you do.
Yeah.
And you get someone to, like I had a lady the other day with a frozen shoulder, and just to get her to kind of move in a better capacity with her shoulder within a session. We didn't completely fix. I'm not a physio or doctor or anything like that. We didn't fix it, but like to move in a capacity where she was moving pain-free. Nice. While there's a bunch of other people moving and training at the same time, because I can run in and go, all right, do this mobilization, or do this movement, or no, don't do that movement, do this instead. And she could get through a session where she wasn't in pain, because again, like the Gen Pop don't have a lot of education behind the stuff, so their mindset is just like, just get it done, don't complain, just do it. Yeah. If I'm in pain, don't say anything. And it's like no, like we want movement quality, we want you to move pain free, we want you to move really well. So that's been the cool thing with that group environment is we've got people that are improving injuries, improving niggles, that are getting better mobility, that are getting results, that are getting strong. Like we're ticking a lot of the boxes. It's just it's that tailored approach, which is been quite cool.
Yeah, customized group training. That's really that's a great idea, man. Especially with that girl with the frozen shoulder, man. Like that must have been a huge reward for her, being able to do it pain free. Like, and it's those little things, man, because of your eye as a coach, you can run in and, like you said, adjust everything for them. That's amazing.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming on, man. So I'm just going to end it with one question. I'm going to be asking everyone this, basically, and that is, what's the most important thing you've learned in the last 2 years? I've asked you this before as well.
Oh.
I think I asked you maybe 3 years ago, man.
Oh, the most important thing as a coach?
Yeah, I reckon, as a coach, yeah. This can be business or anything like that related to coaching, yeah.
Do work hard and do what you need necessary to make sure you're happy in what you do.
Yeah.
And you love what you do. We've had this conversation before.
Yeah.
Right? Don't get trapped in an environment or a situation where you feel like you have to do something. We have the absolute best, and I know this industry gets ripped on. It gets absolutely ripped to pieces. It gets trashed because there's this bad. We have the best industry. I guarantee you, like the freedom we have and the capacity to help people, the income that we potentially can get. Like there's so much positive in it that don't feel like you're trapped. There's so much possibility. Like for me, like I work across so many different things because I refuse to do anything that I don't enjoy doing.
Yeah.
Make sure, and I have this conversation with so many coaches, they're not happy with what they're doing. They start doing the 50, 60 sessions a week. Like, do what makes you passionate. Do what makes you jump out of bed in the morning at 5, 6 a.m. And love what you do. And get a vision and just back yourself.
Yeah.
So many coaches are afraid to back themselves. Like, just have a crack. If you want to do education, if you want to do group training, if you want to do mentoring, if you want to do whatever it might be, just have a crack at that and just do what makes you happy. Especially for a good coach, please don't leave the industry.
Yeah.
Just please find what makes you happy, find what makes you enjoy what you do, and just I think that'll probably be my biggest.
Yeah, man, that's great. That's a great thing to keep in mind. Like even I realized that a few months ago as well. So I think people need to hear that, man. Thanks so much for everything, man. All this knowledge you threw out was awesome catching up. Yeah, man.
No problem at all.
All right, man. Well, thanks again. Maybe we'll do this in the future again. But yeah, awesome having you on. Have a wicked day, man.
I appreciate you taking the time too, man. Appreciate you having me on.
No worries. This is all new for me, so got to build, like you just said, have a crack at it. So just got to check how it goes.
100%.
Sweet, brother. Take care and enjoy the opening of the gyms. We still got a few months, so.
Yeah, we're quite lucky here, so we'll take full advantage of it. But hopefully you guys can hang in there a little bit longer. It's not too far away for you.
Should be all right. Yeah, we'll go quick, I reckon. I think if we just shut our eyes,
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Sweet, man. Have a good one then, yeah?
So I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. See you, brother.
See ya.